Hello guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space and welcome to my channel. My name is Telly and today I'm going to go through installing all three routers, the Festool OF1010, the Festool OF1400 and the Festool OF2200 into this Festool router table. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start off with the 1010. Now I have not installed the 1010 on this router and I have not watched any videos on it. However, I have watched videos on the 1400 and also the 2200, so I understand how that goes in, and I'm thinking that the 1010 is something similar to that. So before we go into the actual installation, let me show you some of the parts that come with this Festool router table. This right here is the ring for the Festool 2200. This is the ring for the Festool 1400. And I'm not 100% sure, but I have these other rings as well. These two, I believe one of these, maybe this one is for the 1010. So we'll try this one and this one out. It's going to be kind of a trial and error situation here. I'm not sure if this fits inside of here. Yeah, it doesn't fit inside of there. And actually this fits inside of here. So this may be this may not be the one for the Festool 1010. I'm thinking this is just an insert because of the way that it fits in there snugly. And then you have several inserts that comes with this set. Right here, I have a grand total, it looks like, was that 5 rings. And so this can pop in here so that you can change the diameter of the orifice. These fit inside of here like this. So that's why I'm concluding that this one is for the 1010. So we're going to give that a try and kind of get it into the router table. So first things first, let me pop out the center inserts. The other things we're going to need besides the inserts, you're going to need this pin here. Let me just sit that down there. And I bought this Festool router table used. The gentleman that I bought it from marked it. If you check right here, there's a smaller side to the pin and then there's a larger size to the pin. And the gentleman that I bought it for marked it. The 1400 is the larger size and the 1010 is the smaller size. The larger size is also used for the 2200 router. You also need this little thumb screw, and that is going to attach onto the router. The router itself is going to be attached to this table or this plate with these, they call them dogs, but they're just metal brackets here. And there's actually a flat side to these brackets that's going to set on top of the router base to hold it onto the table. Now to remove this top, there are cams, and so I'm going to turn this around. And actually, so right now I believe it's unlocked already, so I don't have to turn it, but basically to lock it in, I would turn the cams like this, and that locks the table in. But we're going to take it out. And we're going to remove the base, or the top plate. Flipping the top plate over, we can see here that we have the mechanism to be able to raise and lower the router. You can control it from both the top of the table and the bottom. So this right here is the knob that you'll place on top, and that's going to give me the ability to lower this carriage and raise it accordingly. Alright, so we'll put it all the way up for now, and then we're going to go ahead and grab our 1010 router. So this is the OF1010, right? It is, I believe it's like 1,000 horsepower router in that range. Now the base does not seem to, I'm not sure if this base is supposed to pop off on this particular router. I'm going to try to leave it on and see what happens. Not 100% certain how this one goes on. But the one thing I can tell you is, if you take a look right here, you've got this little flat plate. You're going to put this part right in here and screw it on. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll screw that in. Now this is going to register. There's a hole over here and then there's a hole here. I'm not sure if it's going to register on this side like this. I don't think so. It doesn't look like it's going to fit like that, so I'm thinking it's going to register in the front just like this. But before I do that, I want to put the plate in. Now, as I was saying before, I think this is the plate that goes for this router, so it'll pop in like this, and then that is not going to fit. So I do believe I'm going to need to take this plate off of the bottom of the router. I'm not 100%. That looks like it might be a posi drive. Let me see if I can find that in my screwdriver set. So this is a posi drive 2, and it does not seem to fit in there. This is a Torx 25. It does not fit in there either. Alright, so I think I'm going to have to abandon this one. I need to do a little bit more research because I may need to check in my sustainer, which is not down here right now, to see how to remove these screws to install the 1010. So let's go ahead and pivot and go ahead and install the 1400. And I'll do this in a separate video. So we're going to remove this plate right here. Set it to the side, and let me see if the 1010 is going to have that, or the 1400 is going to have the same problem. I'm not sure. Alright, when I turn the 1400 over, you can see right there what the base looks like. And let me just pop the plate in and see if it'll potentially fit before I even move forward. So that's in there, and then this is supposed to fit on top here. And it doesn't appear that this ring comes off. So I'm going to try to install it without removing that ring. Yeah, it kind of fits into a groove there. I feel it. But first we need to put the screw on. With the plate. So we've got that plate and that screw here. This is going to be the thicker side down. It's going to fit in here like this. And I'll kind of snug it up here and pop that in. So that's how the router is going to sit. And the other thing I'm going to need to do, so this is how it's going to sit, but another thing that I need to do before I set that in there is right here there's a metal plate. I need to take this off of here from this vertical position and put it in a horizontal position up here on top like this. Then I'll take the router, set it down in here, and I want to make sure this is all the way up. And I'll probably want to go ahead and depress the router and tighten it up. Drop that in to where it's snug. And then I can go ahead and, if I roll this all the way down, it will hold the router in this position. Then when I release this, the router doesn't just spring back up. And now there are 3 posts. There's one here and there's 2 on this back side. So I'm going to take this, I want the flat side to rest on the router base, and then I screw this down. Alright, that's nice and snug. And then the next one, I'll turn it around a bit so you can see the other side. Flip this all the way around like this. And I'm going to put this one over here. And you want to make these nice and snug so that the router doesn't shift. And finally, put one here. Okay. All right, so the router does not move. And that, I believe, completes the installation. Now, if I want to change the router bit, this is the best position, I believe, to actually put a bit in. So remember, this has the ratcheting collet, so I can stick my wrench in here, and actually I can go ahead and raise the router up to give me more space to get access to the bit, and then I'll use the wrench and the ratcheting collet to install my bit in there. And once I have my bit installed, I can go ahead and take this plate and flip it over. And I want to, I left the knob on there. Slide the back groove in, and then there's two through holes. Grab it here. Now that's in place. I want to go ahead and tighten this up. And that secures that in there. Now that router feels like it's pretty far down, but let's see how far the lift goes to bring it up to the surface here. So right now we're raising the router, and that seems to be as far as it goes up. Let me just take a look on the bottom to take a look at that. Now there is a chance that I may have to take the base off of this router too, because this appears to be quite low in here. So that may be something that I might have to look into. I did watch part of the video for installing the 1400, not the whole video, so I have to confess that. But you get the general idea of how this installs. I do need to figure out what kind of bit takes off the bottom of these routers, because it is like a proprietary screw or torque or something like that. It may be in the router sustainer, which I believe I have upstairs. So that's how this one goes in, or at least that's what I think. Now we're going to go ahead and remove this router and put in the OF2200. So first and foremost, I reach through here, I grab it, lift the plate over, we're going to remove the router itself. So I'm going to, since the router's in the down position, I'm going to go ahead and lock it down like that, and then I'm going to remove the lift portion. That'll free the router up to be able to come out. Then I'm going to take the knobs off that I put in. And detach the dogs. And then there's one on the back here. I'll go ahead and take that off. Okay, with this off, now I should be able to just lift the router. I am going to remove the key or pin, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to set this to the side here. And I'm going to set my router to the side. I'm going to pop out this insert. And then we're going to get the green insert. And there's actually a little tooth right here, or a protrusion. And you're going to put that where it belongs on here on the router, or on the router plate, and drop it in like that. Okay, so that's in there. Now we're going to take the OF 2200 and try not to throw an MFK 700 onto the floor. I'm going to set it up like this, and the reason why I'm considering those other bases have to be removed, here on this router there is a green lever up here in the front. You pull it and that pops the base off, and the base looks like that. And in addition to doing that, I need to take the key, which is here, same key, and I'm going to locate it with the 1400, the fat portion facing down. I'm going to screw that in. And then once I have that done, right here, I'm going to revisit this, unscrew it, and put it back into the vertical position because it's not required for the 2200. We'll get this in there. Now once that's in, now I'm going to put this pin into the hole here. So let's go ahead and lift the router up and find that pin. And let's see, does it go in like this? So this one is going to turn in a different direction. So the pin, which is here, is going to, I believe, fix to here. There's a back hole over here. And we'll put it in there. And make sure this is all the way up. Now, one thing I forgot to do, I want to depress the router. Let's put the router down. Lock it into place. I'm going to turn the table around so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So there was a hole back here is what I used for the 1400. I'm going to use this hole here. And we'll put this on. Drop that in the hole and snug it up. And as you can see, this portion here is going to come in contact with the lift. Now with this in place, make sure it's snugged in properly. I'm going to go ahead and put these dogs on. Remember, the flat side goes onto the router and the rounded end is going to touch the table. And you just screw them all the way down until they are tight to where the router does not move. You don't want it to shift or anything. So I got that one snugged in. I'm going to put this one on the front on. Got that snugged in. And then the final one, I guess I'll turn it around so you can kind of see it there. The final one is going to go back here like this. And tighten that down. So the router is nice and snug in there. I'm going to go ahead and lower this to catch the router on this back portion here, and then now I can release the lock, and now the router should raise up. Yes, it does. And then now I'm going to take the cord, power cord, and drop it down. Remember, the OF2200 has a permanently connected cord. It does not use the plug-it cord. I want the holes facing me, so I'm going to flip this whole thing over. This time I'm going to remember to take this off and flip the whole thing over like so, and slide in on the back groove. Let the cord go down, grabbing the holes, and then we're going to go ahead and secure it. On each side. There's another thing that I forgot to put in here. There is a clear portion. That's this portion right here, and it drops down in there. I should have put it in while it was out, but I think I can fit it in there like this. Let me just line up the openings here. Pick it up and just kind of lock it in. And what that does is that actually protects the router from dust going down into the motor. So that's in there. And then now we can go ahead and raise the router from the top of the table with this handle. And there you see the router collet is up here this high. Now I have these inserts that I can pop in if I have a smaller bit and I want to have different types of clearance. I can pop these different portions in, and I got that in there, and now I don't know how I'm going to get that out. I'm going to have to use a screwdriver. And pop this out. And you have other ones that fit on the inside here, like so. So before I wrap up this demonstration, I wanted to talk about the OF2200 in this particular router table. When I purchased this router table, the gentleman that sold it to me told me that it had the green insert for the OF2200, but he also said that this particular setup cannot be used with the OF2200. You would void the warranty of this table. Now, after doing a little bit more digging and searching on the internet, I found out why that is. The OF2200 can draw 15 amps from the wall, whereas this particular router table, the switch that controls the power on and off of the router only is able to go up to, it only goes up to 13.5 amps. So you can basically burn out the control switch on here. Now, there's a couple things. I looked on Amazon and I found a 15 amp switch, which I think I'm going to buy. It's about 50 or so bucks, and I think I'm going to find a way to DIY attach it to this table, and then I'm going to probably try to plug my router into that and then see if that works. Now, someone also told me that the way that this router table functions was more suitable for routers that were made before a certain year. I don't know if it was 2021 or what the year is, because those routers, I guess, didn't have the safety function to where they automatically you have to re-engage the power when you turn it off and turn it back on. So being very transparent, I haven't tried that out yet. And the challenge with that would be that basically every time I would go to use the router on this table, this is my understanding of it. I still have to test it, but right now it's like 9:33 at night, so I'm not going to do it. What I would have to do is see if, you turn the router on, you push down the button to keep the router spinning, right? And then you leave it in that locked on form, and then you plug it into the router table, right? And then you plug the router table into the wall, and then as long as the switch is off from the router table to the wall, the router should stay off even though the router is on. When I hit the power button on the router table, then the router should just, because it's already on, it should spin up and go. Now I can't confirm yet what the person was, what the person messaged me, but my understanding of what they were saying is that that function doesn't work anymore, and it doesn't work because of the safety mechanisms built into the newer routers. I will test that and we'll figure it out. Along with, I will also do a little bit more research to see how to remove the bases off of this OF. As a matter of fact, you know what? I think I figured it out already. That's my bad. If I push these in, does that give me the ability to remove the base? No, it does not. Yeah, I'll do some more research to try to figure out how the base removes off of this particular router. I felt like this one was pretty far down inside the table by comparison. Now that might just be the way that it is, the way that it functions. I don't know, because as you see how far up it is, but then when you depress it, right, that's as far up as it goes. So I wouldn't get that much more room unless this actual base plate comes out, which it does look like it might come out, but let me try with the screwdriver here. Yeah, I think this is actually, these collets are for inserts that fit into this router. So I will do more research to find out if this plate comes off, and then I will report back. So I guess in short, basically this was just me installing the OF2200 into this router table. Again, like I said, if you do happen to buy this table and it is functioning, you don't want to use the 2200 directly plugged into the power box on the router table, because you could potentially destroy the circuitry. There's no more warranty because this is so old, but I think to preserve the functionality of the table, I can get away with using the OF2200 with a little bit of a workaround in this table, which I think that's what I'm going to do. I was actually considering buying a second OF1400 so that I could still use that and not have to use the big router when I need to do something that's a little bit more heavy duty. And then, you know, I would have access to all three sizes handheld. But if you've had your hands on the OF2200, it's a pretty big and beefy router, and I think, except for certain extreme cases, I think it's the better use case would be for me to leave it in the table and use it as a router table. I think I'll have plenty of power to do everything I need to do that you would need to do on a router table. I wouldn't be lacking for power as I would be with the 1010. And then also, you know, the 1400 is the best all-around router, but of course this is, you know, stepping up your power. I'm not quite sure, at least at this level in my woodworking journey, in my skill level, I'm not quite sure that I have any projects that's going to require me to use something as big as the 2200 handheld. So I'm very happy that I was able to get this CMS OF Festool router table. As you can see, it's got the slide. I've got the fence over here that I can install. So yeah, anyways guys, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Well, no, let me go ahead and just talk a little bit more about the new routers. I believe, I know they announced 3, but when I went on one of Festool's sites, it looks like there may be 4 new routers coming out. There's a OF500C, and that one's going to be the cordless trim router. It's just a trim only router, does chamfers, roundovers, and such like that. Very interested in picking that up. I think it would be nice to actually have a battery powered Festool router. I have a Makita and a Milwaukee here in the shop, and you know, as I've been moving my shop over to a full Festool shop, that's one thing that they didn't have. They didn't have a battery powered router, so that is something that I'm interested in getting. Now the OF500C is a specialty router. It's not an all-around router. They also offer the I believe it's the MFK 700, or it's a 700C router, and that would be this router here in the battery form. It comes in 2 configurations, just like this one here. This one is for the Contoro, and this one is for all-around routing functions. So they have a contour cordless, and then they have an all-around routing function cordless option. Now, I've mentioned many times before, I enjoy doing my YouTube channel. I enjoy doing unboxings for you guys so you can see what I'm doing here in the shop, and you know what I've collected as far as in my tool collection. There are a lot of things on my list that I still want to get. I thought I was pretty much done in my Festool journey, and I was turning my attention to, if I haven't mentioned it before, I wanted to get a second Festool MFT. I wanted to get the MW1000 and then the STM 1800. And when I total all that out, I think without tax, that comes up to about $3,200. That was going to be what I was going to do to put me in a position where I could move away from my big Festool MFT and kind of change the workflow in my shop, making my shop a little bit more multi-purpose, so that I could fold away my tables and like pull my car, you know, in the garage and do tune-ups and oil changes in the garage instead of either out on the street or in the driveway. And my driveway's on a slope, so that's a little bit, I mean, I've done plenty of oil changes on the slope, but it would be more beneficial and nicer. Like say if it's raining outside or something, I could just pull the car in, even if it's part way, do my tune-up and oil change without having all of my tools out in the front yard. I feel more comfortable doing that. So that's the reason why I want to move to the folding tables. Now I did decide I'm going to go ahead and complete my Festool set before I even consider something like a dashboard or a the bench dogs tables. Now the bench dog stuff, you know, I really am a big fan of bench dogs tools. However, with the global things that are going on, I was actually looking, I have the bench dogs quad hinge the quad hinge system, the hinge, and they made a plate for it so that I can actually connect it to my Festool MFT. Now I wanted to buy that plate and it cost like $98. Well, when I put it in my cart to order and to have it delivered, you pay almost 40% in shipping for just a piece of aluminum plate to attach that guide rail, that rail hinge to this Festool MFT. And so I'm up on the fence on if I'm going to actually do that, because I was considering if I take this Festool. So what I was considering is if I take two of these Festool MFTs and put them together, I can either because I'm going to get one that comes with the rail. I'm going to get the full MFT3. So that means I'll have two rails and two hinges. Now what I can do, if I do get rid of my big 4-foot by 8-foot table, I can take my long 2200 fence and put it across both Festool MFTs, binding them together along with using the connector plates, so that I would use the same fence. Because one thing I do know is, even though the Festool MFT has the protractor function so you can cut angles, which is a very nice feature, I haven't used it. And so if I decide that I'm not going to use it, rather than having two fences that go all the way down, two separate fences that I would have to line up, I could use that one 2200 fence to go all the way down and connect both tables together, and I could use my stops across two Festool MFTs. And then I was thinking, if I'm going to do that, I might as well upgrade the hinge on here. So I would use my bench dogs hinge on here with the bench dogs fence, which I think would be a nice change of pace, if you will. The bench dog hinge is very well made, is very robust, and I also wouldn't mind like comparing that hinge with the dashboard hinge. Now I would be willing to buy the dashboard hinge and put it on here, but I figure since I already have a bench dogs fence, it would be paired very nicely with the bench dogs hinge system. But I would, as I said, I don't want to, even though I can use the quad dogs on top of the table, I would rather attach it to the rail so that I have ample cut space from here to the back fence. Anyways, the side ramble. So being that I wanted to get those tables, and now all of a sudden Festool's come out with basically, I believe 4 routers, because I do believe that the OF 500 comes in corded and cordless. I think I saw that on a site, on one of their Festool sites, but they didn't announce it when they did the video. So I may be wrong on that, but I think it does come in a corded version and in a cordless version. So that right there, I'm pretty sure each one of those routers is probably going to be close to 700 or more. That's a lot of money. If you get all four, you're talking about 2,800 bucks without tax. So you got the routers coming out. Now, definitely cannot justify getting the two new dominoes. However, if my channel ever picks up ground and ever starts to do well to where I'm actually bringing in an income through the YouTube revenue, then I would like to get those two dominoes. And as I may have mentioned it before, I'd like to get those two dominoes, the corded one and the cordless one, so I could do a comparison between the corded new one and the old one, but then also get the Lamello Zeta P2 cordless and compare that to the Domino cordless, and just, you know, kind of weigh that stuff out. I enjoy doing that type of stuff. So it's not a common thing for like a DIY hobbyist type of thing, but I think that it's very healthy to have other sources of information other than just from the manufacturer themselves. And so I don't have any incentive, no paid incentive to basically provide information that's not the truth, right? So anyways, I want to thank you guys for taking time to watch this video. I was hoping to be able to do the 1010 and the 1400 all in one video, but it's not meant to be. I want to thank you guys for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care.